Just give me a second. I'm seeing if any of these are pertaining to the agenda. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today during our board meeting. There is quite a few audience participation forms that I have here. So just to let you guys know, the audience participation happens at the end unless it's pertaining to agenda items, okay? We do have students that are here to present. If anybody is willing, can we have the students be seated, and if it's okay.
They're already directed to the conference office.
Oh, they're in the conference office? Okay.
You're gonna put that right.
I was just stating that the audience participation is held at towards the end of the meeting, and that we do have student presentations here, and I wasn't sure if they were seated outside, and I just wanted them to be in here, but they have been told to go sit in our other office. All right, so thank you all for joining us. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:30. All right, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Also, if there's any more audience participation forms, can you please hand them to Joanne? All right, roll call. Mr. Chowdhury.
Present.
Ms. Hall.
Present.
Mr. Obeid.
Present.
Ms. Ayash. Ms. Watson.
Present.
Mr. Major.
Present.
And I am present. We have a quorum. All right. Resolution number 1, acceptance of agenda. Do I have a motion?
No motion.
Motion by Ms. Hall.
Second.
Second by Mr. Obeid. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts and approves the agenda with any additions or deletions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? All right, so now we are at, okay, I think this mic is dying. Now we're at board calendar updates. So we have a COW meeting scheduled for October 26th at 6:30 p.m. Is everybody available and aware?
Yeah, good.
Yep, okay. So then our November meeting dates are November 9th. This mic is dying.
Yeah, I just texted Mark.
Want to use this one?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah.
Best.
Is it dead too?
Hold on for a second.
It's dead too.
Switcher just went on, but it's turned off now, so I wonder if this one's dead too.
All right, November 9th, we have our regular board meeting at 6:30, and November 23rd at 6:30 is our COW meeting. I don't know why it says reschedule here, but oh, okay, I'm sorry. Do you guys want to reschedule that? Or are you okay with it?
The day before Thanksgiving, I think.
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with it? Saul? Huh?
We can schedule.
Reschedule?
I mean, it's up to everybody. I don't
Okay.
care. I mean, but it's a cow,
Yeah.
so we need to be thinking about everybody else too.
Yeah.
We need to think about if they gotta go home and cook, probably,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, to have people present, yeah.
Okay, So,
Are they on break? Because if the teachers aren't even here, why would we have them come our way?
It's a
Well,
half
next
day.
Wednesday.
Oh, half a
Half
day.
day in the district.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless we do it early.
We should reschedule this.
okay, so we'll reschedule it. Let's look at our calendar.
Maybe for the week previous. The 16th. Yeah.
Let me check.
How about the
Alright,
15th?
so we have the 16th as an option. It would be 1 week after our regular board meeting. I'm available that day.
I'm fine with that.
Alright, Ms. Hall's fine with that? Ms.
I'm fine with it.
Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Chowdhury's fine with it?
Rachel?
If we've got stuff to line up for that though, is that gonna be enough time to allow,
Yeah, so it's,
cause it's just over a month, right? 'Cause
yeah,
today's
it's-
the 12th.
it's over a month, so I think there
Think it's
will
gonna
be
be
enough time, yes.
Okay.
Alright, so we are gonna reschedule the November 23rd meeting for our COM meeting to November 16th at 6:30 PM. Okay? Board correspondence, do we have any board correspondence? Mr. Najee?
Oh, not at the moment.
No? Okay. Alright, let's start off with our student presentations. Mr. Abed will go get them.
Hurry up.
You're up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're on, okay.
Okay.
Can you guys?
Hi, my name is Deanna Daly, and this is Max Spade. I'm music teacher at Taubate at ECE.
I teach at Dickinson West in Holbrook.
And part of the extended summer school program this year, we did a summer music camp. So after summer school ended, we met for 3 weeks on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons at Taubate in the air conditioning. And practiced, we chose some songs. I chose a couple, Mr. Spade chose a couple. They chose a song. And we practiced them, we learned some moves, we had played some games. We had a lot of fun, didn't we guys?
Yes.
Yes, and we enjoyed ourselves immensely and would love to do this and again in the future. We're gonna just show you some short little pictures and videos, and then these lovely folks are gonna sing for us.
Hold on, don't worry yet, it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song.
can't keep me from loving you, and you know it's true. It don't matter what'll come to be, our love's all we need to make it through.
Let's sing it along.
We wrapped up the 3 weeks by performing at Veterans Park. We originally wanted to coordinate with the Hamtramck Music Festival, which was happening during the summertime, but being kids and evening activity just didn't work out. So we made our own activity at Veterans Park.
Okay, come on up, guys. So today we're gonna sing one song for you. This was the song the kids enjoyed the most. This is called A Little Bit of Love. And so let's introduce our singers for today. This is Brielle, Samuel, Sayan, and Grace. And we're short about 3 kids, so Ms. Daly and I are gonna be subbing in for a little bit of vocal support. Okay, so we're singing strong and we're standing up straight, all right?
Emotions, kept going.
guys did a great job. Thank you for coming and sharing with us. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing the joy into the room.
Thank you.
All right, before we move on, I was just informed that the meeting on YouTube is not available. It's saying video restricted. Is there a reason that it's restricted?
Now I'm making this as well, if there's any more videos. I put them right there. I'm getting responses that it's working, the YouTube.
Is it working?
Yeah, there's
I just checked. It was not. It says video unavailable. This video is restricted.
maybe here, just here, because of the permissions.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that can go on YouTube and see if it's restricted on your end, or is it just a?
You might have to turn off Wi-Fi and just use your signal.
It's not restricted.
It's not restricted on your end? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's showing live on mine too.
Okay.
So,
All right, resolution number 2, approval of consent agenda items. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Chowdhury. Seconded by Mr. Major. Resolved that upon the recommendations of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the 5 following items under the consent agenda. Do we have any discussion for it? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Is there any of the new hires present today, Mr. Najee, that you're aware of?
Anyone here or new hires? I don't know if they've shown up. Any of our teachers, support staff? No?
Then they're welcome.
Thank you. Oh, the audience participation.
Next up, we have audience participation. We are limited to 15 minutes. So this portion of the agenda is for citizens to address agenda items only. To the board will listen to comments and questions under advisement and not respond at this time. The proceeding officer will refer questions to the superintendent for research and response. So I've looked through the audience participation forms and I did not see any that pertain specifically to the agenda unless you guys feel differently. Please give it to me.
Mine say staff.
Office positions?
Huh?
Office positions? Is that,
Yeah.
so, all right, come on up.
The consent agenda.
The one I just handed also is, it's regarding the field trip that's on the agenda.
Okay.
The one I just handed.
thank you.
All right, you can go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
I thought they say 15 minutes.
15 total for everybody.
That ain't what they say.
We're limiting it to 15 minutes.
Well, anyway, I'll probably go over, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, the last time I was here was back in May or June or whatever. I was meeting with, the superintendent and everything, give him some applause for, the different things we talked about as far as the high school and all of that, but we can do better. The other thing I wanna talk about is, the issues that happened at the high school with those young men. That's not resolved. I wanted that young man in that position, removed for trying to have those, put those kids out of that lunchroom and, trying to have them, mop the floor. They're not, those kids up there are not restivics, they're students. And let's treat them that way. So, this is an ultimatum. You have until Wednesday, February the 8th, and we all in here know what that day is, to get rid of him. If not, then we, the citizens, the National Action, BAM, by any means necessary, all of them, we will be throughout Hamtramck passing out flyers, keeping kids at home that day, in order for you not to get your account money. We are not going to tolerate this board or anybody in that building, a third-party person, trying to treat those kids like restivics. He should have been gone. If that was your son, daughters, or whatever, that person would have been gone. Now, we want him gone. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do, if he's not gone, I'm gonna get in touch with, the state Board of Education. Mr. Nat, he know me, we been down here talking with Abraham and all of that, and he know I will. I'm not holding my tongue on this. He needs to be gone. All summer, we talked about how to resolve some issues with those kids up there fighting and all of that stuff. Bring some outside people in here that those kids will, conform to and listen to. Fighting still going on up there at the school. I don't know if y'all know it, but it's still going on. It needs to stop. When are we, as this body in the whole, teachers and all that, gonna come together? And the best thing about this school board meeting today was these youngsters right here singing. That's it. That's it, and that's a shame. But I'm telling you now, a lot of you in here know me. Some of these teachers know me. I'm going after your money. All right.
All right, next we have Jessica Madden regarding an overnight camping trip to Indiana, Dunes National Park on the 28th.
Hi, thank you.
Your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay, so we have a trip planned for, it's 2 weeks from now. At the high school we have 22 students who have all participated in camping with us before. Some of them were from the group that we took backpacking to Pictured Rocks last fall. Some were from the group of the girls' camp retreat that we did in the spring. And some were from a group that we took a couple weeks ago overnight at Scout Hollow. So the trip is paid for through a grant through the National Park Service. There are 4 staff members going, myself, Miss Ajoko Wilson, who's here somewhere, she might be out there, Miss Kim Harkleroad, and Mr. Albrecht. And this trip, we're hoping to build the kids' leadership abilities. We still haven't gotten our Outdoor Adventure Club started. We're waiting to hear from funding, either from I think some ESSER funds or hopefully through our athletic department. So when that comes through, then we can start that up in the spring, because we have a lot of interest. There's about 100 kids asking to go camping. So right now we're just gonna take this group and they'll be kind of our leaders and keep the momentum going. So with your approval, it's a Friday night, actually Friday, October 28th around 10 a.m. It's about a 4.5-hour drive. We'll be going with the boat bus. Again, the bus driver, he's the wilderness first responder. And we'll return Sunday around 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
There are 22 invited. We'll see how many they've got to fill out. We have extensive forms, so as long as they get forms filled out, parent permission. That's on it.
Just make sure that they all the medical
Yes.
conditions are known.
Yes.
Make sure that you guys have first aid kits and
Yep. Oh yeah.
and safety is first for the students. Okay.
Yeah, we use just on safety and around health. We have a form that the board approved back in 2019. That's a medical waiver. And then we have our own Hamtramck waiver, and the bus has its own waiver and health forms, so we go through that before we go, just to make sure. Yes.
Take a lot of pictures.
Yes, the
Yeah.
students are great at taking pictures, so we'll share from our trip. And at some point, we'll have some students come along, and when we have more room on the bus, we may invite some board members at some point to come along with us, because the trips are amazing. We're really getting a group of kids that it is a good representation of our school, and they're not all friends, they don't all know each other, but by the end, they do, so it's really great.
That's 3 minutes. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to action items. Resolution number 3, approval of invoices and check registers. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Obey,
Second.
second by Mr. Major. Resolved that the check register for the period of August 11th, 2022 through September 14th, 2022, and September 15th, 2022 through October 12th, 2022, as enclosed, is to be approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? All right, moving forward. Resolution number 4, approval of board policy 5511, dressing and grooming. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Major.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Obaid. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the changes to board policy number 5511 as submitted. Do we have any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one opposes, motion passes. Resolution number 5, approval of the 2022-2023 Student Parent Handbook / Code of Conduct. Do I have a motion? Mr. Chowdhury,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Major. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the 2022-2023 Student Parent Handbook / Code of Conduct and Anti-Bullying Contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I just wanted to personally say thank you to the team that made these code of conduct books. It's been needed for a while now, and I know a lot of teachers have requested it, and I'm happy that it's here now. Resolution number 6, approval of salary increase. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Major,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Obaid. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve a 3% increase in pay for Heather Maserati, sorry if I butchered your name, Software Implementation and Support Specialist for the period of July 1st, 2022 through September 23rd, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Resolution number 7, approval of business office position. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Ms. Watson,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Major. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the position of Business Office Coordinator, salary range of $75,000 to $85,000, duties per the attached job description. Any discussions?
Where's that at?
Huh?
Where's that at? The job description?
Yeah, it's on the drive.
Oh, okay.
Would you like Mr. Lane to explain what the position is?
No, because one of the never mind. I just feel like one of our resignations was the fact that they didn't get this and now it's out in the open, so it's like, yeah.
All right,
We would have to fill the.
all in favor?
We should apply.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Resolution number 6, approval of out-of-state trip. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Call,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Watson. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the request of Jessica Madden and Ajoko Wilson, Kimberly Hartroad, and William L. Birch to take students on a trip to Indiana Dunes National Park, October 28th through the 20th, through the 3rd of 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Resolution number 9, approval of conference attendance. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Major, seconded by Mr. Chowdhury. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the request of the following individuals to attend the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education, MACAE, Fall Convention to be held November 14th through the 16th, 2022 in Muskegon, Michigan. Sylvia Bazjak, who is the AE Site Coordinator, Ishraq Ismail, she is also an AE Site Coordinator, and Principal Nuo Vezai, AE Director. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? All right. Just, we would like to get a presentation on what you guys learned and your experience. Okay, thank you. All right, reports to the board. First off, we have financial status of the district, Ms. Lynham.
Good evening, board.
You want me to just hit the button for you?
Huh?
It might be powered off. You want the mouse? Is the mouse on?
Okay,
No.
Thank you. Okay, so first we'll begin with looking at the year that we just finished, the 2021.
Ms. Lynn, you gotta get pretty close to the microphone.
Okay, let's first start by looking at the year that we just finished, fiscal year 2021-22. At this point, all transactions for the previous year have been processed. All grant expenditures that were previously miscoded, that was talked about at the last board meeting, have all been reclassified and are properly being charged to the grants that they should be. All of the grant expenditures are in alignment with the budgets that were approved by MDE. The annual audit is in progress. The auditors came out and began the audit on September 26th. They were here for about 4 days, finished all of their field testing, and went back, and they're now working on the financial statements. And they will be here in November to present the financial statements and the audit report to the board at the November board meeting. Excuse me. The FID, which is the Financial Information Database, which is required by the state of Michigan, is due November 1st. The audit report has to be finished first, and it has to balance to the audit of the financial statements. And we are on target to have everything done and the FID submitted by November 1st. If that doesn't happen, then state aid will be withheld until it's done, but it's never happened here and never will. So for this year, our general fund, ending fund balance is going to be approximately $14 million. We have an additional $4.6 million in revenue that was from reimbursements from grants at the end of the school year. It missed the cutoff date to be claimed in the 21-22 school year. So that reimbursement will be claimed in the 22-23 school year. So it's like we've got an extra $4.5 million that we're gonna add to the 22-23 budget. For our federal grants for 22-23, the consolidated application includes Title I, Title II, Title III ELA, Title III Immigrant, and Title IV. All of the grant budgets have been submitted. Each line item has been looked at by Yvonne Mayfield, who is the MDE field consultant, and everything has been approved. The status of the budget right now is program office complete. The next status after that, once MDE is done, would be grant funds available. As soon as we receive the status that grant funds are available, then we will put the budgets into our finance system, which is called SMART. And once those grants are in the SMART system, whenever a purchase is made against those grants, the person that entering the purchase will receive a message if it's over budget, and that will be their warning to make sure that they're using the right account number so that we don't end up with a situation where things are being charged to wrong account numbers. After the person enters the purchase into the system, the next step is the grant director will look at the purchase that's been entered, give their approval, and if everything is in alignment, it's been properly coded, and it's in the right budget, then the next, they will approve it, and then it comes to me for my approval. Additional grants include ESSER. Right now, we have ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds available. All of the ESSER 2 funds have been committed to the project, which has already started in many of our buildings, to upgrade the windows, install air conditioning, replace or upgrade the HVAC systems. Some of this work has already been done. There's still a lot to go. We received about $15 million in ESSER 2 funds, but I don't know if you remember from several meetings ago, the total project, I believe it's about $22 million. So we'll be using some of our ESSER 3 money to complete those projects. Projects that are programs and projects that were started in 21-22 with the ESSER 3 dollars are going to continue. We're in the process of forming an ESSER committee so that we can determine how to spend the 20% set aside portion of the ESSER 3. Those meetings should start taking some time this month. There's several new state grants that were approved in the governor's budget. I got some information on those yesterday when I went to a conference in Lansing. And there's a Section 31AA will be receiving $109 per pupil for all students, and that's for mental health programs. Section 97 for improving student safety is also $109 per pupil. Section 97B, districts can use that money to hire a resource officer. Section 97, comprehensive safety and security assessment funding, districts can use that money to see if they want to install metal detectors or hire additional security guards or whatever the best uses for that district is for those funds. Section 97D funding for critical incident mapping. I have to be honest with you, I just learned about this one yesterday. I don't know what its purpose is, but I will be finding out. And if it's something that can help the district, we'll make sure that we take advantage of it and get the money and use it accordingly. Many of those grants require community input, so we will be coming back to the board and having board meetings and forming committees to determine the best way to use these funds. There's also a section 98C, which is to address learning loss. All of these grants have different uses, different requirements, and it's gonna take people to evaluate these and see what needs to be done. Do we need to hire new staff? Do we need to designate some of the requirements for these grants to staff that's already on board? But we'll get through them all. We'll make sure that we meet all of the deadlines, and if it's something that's gonna help our district, then we will make sure that we do it. Okay, so the question was, what is the fiscal condition of the district right now? The district continues to remain fiscally sound, as we have for more than 10 years now. Again, our ending fund balance is going to be about $14 million for the 21-22 school year. Previous year, it was $16.3 million, but we have an additional $4.6 million in revenue that was actually from the 21-22 school year. We just couldn't count it in that school year. We'll be counting it in 22-23. So if you add that 14.6 to the 14 that is going to be our ending fund balance, we really had $18 million coming from the 21-22 school year. Even with the $14 million, our fund balance is 28% of expenditures. The statewide average is 15.89%, so you can see that we're still almost double the statewide average. So we're in a very, still in a very healthy, financially sound position. Concerns that I have regarding funding, enrollment, and this was predicted at the budget hearing, that enrollment is going to decline. Our enrollment count is still fluid. We still have that, we're still within the period of where we can count students, so I can't tell you what the exact number is right now, but right now we are slightly down from the previous year. Other concern is staffing. Thank you very much for approving the new position. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm losing a staff member. Our accountant is, her last day is October 18th. There's no one else in the district that can pick up the work that she has been doing and is required to do other than me. Not only that, she's the backup for the other positions. So if something happens to our accounts payable person or our payroll person, there's no one else that can do that. And that's why I was asking for this new position 2 meetings ago. A couple of other things that I'd like to mention. I did have a meeting with the board treasurer to discuss the finances since the last board meeting, and we plan to have regular meetings at least quarterly to discuss any financial concerns and just to make sure that the board is aware of any where we are financially and any new funding or any new expenditures that were not accounted for in the previous budget that may have been unforeseen. We'll be doing a budget amendment in December or January, and at that time, we'll be able to update the state aid revenue based on the actual student count, include any new funding sources that have come along since the budget hearing. And so that's where we are with the funding. Any questions?
Thank you for your work, Sherry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you to Nicolisha Holiday for all the work she's
I
done.
will.
And I know she's not here tonight, but
She's been my right hand, very capable, very qualified, and she will be missed.
she will.
All right,
Is her, Sherry, is her position now posted?
Not yet, it will
Okay.
be,
Need to be.
Shortly.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good.
it's not related to anything, but since we have people resign or leave, can we have exit?
Interviews? Yeah,
Interviews.
that's always
But it
been.
never been having, that's what I've been noticed.
Okay. All right, I just had a question for Mr. Najee. There's one report that is missing from the agenda that I had,
Yeah, it's gonna be postponed, sorry about that. The next meeting, a lot of the staff that are supposed to present are sick, not here. So we wanted the whole team to present together.
okay. It was just for the curriculum update. I requested a update for us, and I just noticed that it's
Yeah,
not here.
yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that until now, so.
Next meeting's okay.
Next meeting, please,
there is
put
a
on the
meeting.
account meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
There is an email been sent.
Yeah,
Regarding-
the person sent it,
Yes.
Yeah.
said they were sick.
All right, moving on, special education, Mr. Awad.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the board with an update on special education and to speak to the staff and the community on what we have so far going on in the special education department. So without, it goes without saying, we're facing some significant challenges, and hopefully this presentation will shed some light on what has transpired so far for this year. So, what I would like to share with the board is what is the continuum of special education programs, and those are Act 18 programs available outside of the district. I'd also like to provide an update on programming within the district, new information on a cooperative agreement that's in the works with a district in the county, in the eastern region. Address some staffing concerns, address the volume of evaluations that we are confronted with, but also bring to the attention of the board the need to potentially reconvene the district's strategic planning committee to address specifically some issues that are relevant to special ed. So, the continuum of programming in special education, as you know, Hamtramck Public Schools does not operate center programs for various reasons. Historically, a small district the size of Hamtramck has relied on Act 18 continuum options through Wayne Risa for student placements in highly specialized programs, as well as programs that operate as a separate facility. Hamtramck relies on services from Grosse Pointe Public School System for students on the autism spectrum that require specialized programming. When those programs are full, we revert back to Detroit for the overflow ASD programming. We also rely on Detroit Public Schools for programming for the moderate cognitive impairment, severely multiply impaired, severely cognitively impaired, deaf and hard of hearing, vision impairment, physically or otherwise health impaired. Those are the high rate referrals out of the district for students that require those specialized programs. As you can understand, the curricular shortage list is not unique to just Hamtramck. We do have our curricular shortage. We are short several staff members in some very key visible positions, specifically at ECE. However, that's not unique to us. In a casual conversation with the former director for Hamtramck, who's now a director in Tennessee, just casually asking, how is your curricular shortage list? The comment and the statement that was made is twice as bad as what it is in Michigan. So this is not unique to just Hamtramck. The conversation today in Eastern Region conversation with the Eastern directors, that's Detroit, Harper Woods, Grosse Pointe, ourselves, what's going on, the focus of the conversation has been critical shortage in any category, whether it's general ed or special ed, but the focus is on special ed in any position, psych, social work, speech, classroom teachers, with the various endorsements for special education. With that said, the projections that we received from Detroit and Grosse Pointe. Grosse Pointe, the projections came last January. Detroit's projections came in the latter part of August, where they were projected full. When categorical programs that the district relies on as a continuum of Act 18 programming are full, FAPE remains in the district. It is the primary responsibility of the resident district to operate, to provide free and appropriate public education to students with IEPs, irrespective of whether the programs where they need to end up in, based on IEP recommendation, have spots availability or are full. So when those programs are full, then you start to see the impact on the district where more and more students, more severe, more moderate, more complicated students that the district has been historically accustomed to sending them out, needing to then remain in the district. Understanding that that was the projection from last year, we positioned the district in a place where the projection was to convert and open additional autism classrooms in the district. And I'll speak to that in a minute, just to make sure that we have the capacity to meet the needs. Additionally, I think this one died. Thank you, Mr. Richard. Can you hear me? Okay. Additionally, what we have done is invested in staff training. However, with the disruption and labor dispute that emerged last year, all of the staff that went to the intensive training left beginning August through November. When we wanted to send another group of staff to training, the training has changed, moved away from our area, and we are looking for other opportunities to provide staff support and staff training. We were able to open one additional autism classroom at Holbrook. We were able to hire a teacher that is currently in that program. Our autism resource program at Dickinson East was converted to an ASD categorical classroom. The intention was also to open 2 additional autism classrooms at Early Childhood Elementary. However, with a last-minute resignation, late July, early August, I don't have the exact date, we wanted to add one more classroom, but then we ended up with a resignation, so now we are down 2 teachers at Early Childhood Elementary. But also looking at the numbers, what we also decided through administrative discussions that the programs at Early Childhood Elementary, because of the numbers, should not convert to autism categorical self-contained classrooms. When you open up a self-contained categorical autism classroom, you now have to follow program rules. The program rules are 1 teacher to 2 para, up to 7 students. We have more students than that, so then best practice is to avoid a conversion to categorical classrooms in that scenario. And looking at, what can we do differently. With that program conversion, what we decided to do is to locally fund the autism program. So the district is paying for that program through general fund. We are not relying on Act 18 funding to support this program. If we do convert to Act 18 categorical program, in addition to Hamtramck students, we then would be in a position where we have to take students from outside of Hamtramck. As it is, we don't have enough space to support our own programs. So my recommendation to Mr. Nagy is to keep it for internal in-district students, not go through Act 18 funding, which adds a financial burden to the district, a cost that would need to be absorbed by the district and reimbursed at a rate of 29% through IDEA flow-through, as opposed to being fully funded by Act 18. Again, the priority needs to be on meeting the needs of the district. That comes with some challenges, but first I'd like to speak to some of the things that were done to help the district prepare for that conversion. So this has been long coming. We didn't wake up one day and said, okay, we need to do ASD classrooms in Hamtramck. We have been seeing this buildup of increased identification rate in the category of autism going back several years. It's a perfect storm. On the one hand, when I first started my career, the identification rate of students on the autism spectrum, first of all, came at an older age. It did not come at a younger age. But also the identification rate was one child identified as a student with autism out of 244 births. In the span of 20 years, that rate has gone down from 1 in 244 to 1 in about 44 live birth is identified as a student with autism. But more critically, the diagnostic criteria, the psychiatric diagnostic criteria for identification changed to focus on early identification. We can reliably identify students on the autism spectrum as young as 1.5 years old. So it's a perfect storm with a high rate of identification coupled with fewer people going into public education, fewer people going into special education, and we're getting into that 30-year cycle where we're starting to see more and more people leaving the profession either through burnout or through attrition due to retirement. So that replenishment feeder system that exists right now in the landscape of education doesn't compare anything to what it was like in the 90s and early 2000s, where there were more people qualified for jobs than there were jobs. Now we have the reverse effect, where we have more jobs than we have people certified and qualified to work in those positions. So we are under stress from simply a supply and demand. There is a great need for special education teachers with appropriate certifications, but there aren't enough teachers to fill those positions. When we go to job fairs, there's more recruiters from all over the country and out of state than there are students to be recruited. When we talk to colleges, what they're telling us is that their enrollment rate is declining. You may recall the conversations over summer where there was a concern whether those middle-level colleges, Central, Eastern, are viable universities with declining enrollment overall, not to mention declining enrollment in College of Education. With that said, the other issues that we're faced with is when we reach out to universities with whom we have a partnership agreement to recruit student teachers. We have teachers in the district that we hired right out of college to do their student teaching before they became full-fledged teachers. When we reached out to those universities, they didn't have anybody that they can supply us with. So that's an added layer of pressure that we have to contend with. But the work that was done over summer to prepare the district for converting resource programs to ASD categorical classroom required partnership with Wayne Risa. Wayne Risa for a while there was supportive and understanding that if everybody else is full and your volume is increasing, maybe it's time for Hamtramck to open its own autism programs. However, they weren't convinced 100% that that's the direction to go. So their approval was provisional. Provisional based on hedging their bets that they can have conversations with our partner districts, Detroit and Grosse Pointe, to see what they're doing to increase their hiring, open additional classrooms. What ended up being the result of that is, as Detroit and Grosse Pointe were losing teachers for various reasons, what ended up happening is they were in a position where they had to collapse sections, which meant if there were spots available, they were no longer available, which meant students in our pipeline for placement could no longer be placed if they didn't have a spot in those districts to be placed. At that point, we pushed the conversation assertively with Wayne Risa to say, we're not gonna take a maybe anymore. We need to get in front of this. And it was mid-August, that conversation took place on July 5th. It was mid-July before we finally got the approval. When we did receive Wayne Risa's approval, we applied for teachers who do not have autism certification on their endorsements on their teaching license for waiver. what we're hearing is MDE has to approve those waivers, but their approval is not timely. We met our obligation, we proved that, we have been advertising and marketing for special education teachers for any of the critical shortages lists for a long time, going back to last fall. And we weren't able to recruit teachers, so we have the appropriate documentation to justify and verify that we are one of those districts impacted by the critical shortage list. We're waiting on MDE to issue that approval to allow teachers who hold other special education endorsements to teach in special education, especially the ASD categorical classrooms. We also had to work with the MyStar team from Oakland, from Wayne Risa, to help lay out the footwork and the digital footprint in MyStar to allow us to use the program code, to allow us to create the categorical features in MyStar, generate an appropriate report card for kids in self-contained classrooms. We are working with our consultants to provide our special education teachers in those classrooms training and support on implementing the essential element of the state standards of the curriculum. So we're not following Common Core state standard leading to high school diploma for the students that are recommended for placement in the categorical classroom. By virtue of the severity of their of the manifestation of the autism, we have to find those alternative curriculum options. We have also partnered with Wayne Risa and requested additional autism support. Our autism teacher consultant from Grosse Pointe is only here for 2.5 days a week, 2 days for our K-12 students, and a half day for our early childhood student population, transitioning from early on as well as early childhood special ed. We have recognized that 2.5 days is not an adequate level of support given the increased needs that the district is experiencing with more moderate to severe student needs and an increasing number of students. But also, the 2 teachers that we had at the time, they were fresh out of college, first year teaching in virtual environment and the second year last year in-person teaching. And they needed a lot of support to help shape some classroom practices and instructional practices. When we reached out to Grosse Pointe, they were capped out with the level of support that they can allocate to us, so we went to Wayne Risa, and the conversation took place from last October to this past August, when they finally gave us the approval of, we're gonna allocate our ASD consultant from Wayne Risa to come and help. So that communication went out to the staff last Friday. It was the last email I sent out last Friday, laying out what is the role of the autism consultant. Based on the needs at ECE, the meeting today with Wayne Risa at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, we are diverting more of the Wayne Risa autism consultant time to support ECE with the needs that they have for their students. As we see increased student enrollment in autism, we might be in a position where we have to increase our staffing level to match the need appropriately. And just to foreshadow, so that no one is surprised, there may come a time where I may come in and request additional staffing in terms of an autism consultant, as well as a behavior specialist, that their primary focus and responsibility is going to be the ASD classrooms, the ASD student population. Our social workers are spread so thin that is not an adequate level of support. We do need to enhance that level of support. So just a couple of things that are coming down the pipe in the future. To support our increased need of more moderate to complicated severe students, some of whom are still nonverbal, we do have a committee that includes a special education teacher from the high school and a speech pathologist that are serving as an AT consultant and an assistive technology coach for the district, that are responsible for reviewing student needs and making recommendation for support, whether it's low-tech visual schedules, picture cards, all the way up to devices that will help students develop their non-existing communication system. At this point, we have some students that are nonverbal, that rely to communicate on gestures and taking you to what they need so that they can have their needs met. We're hoping that through that assistive technology, we will have additional layers of support built into the students' IEPs and support available to the students. That is not an easy task. There's a lot of training that would need to go in. There's a lot of assessment to match student need to the appropriate level and type of assistive technology support. One of the things that we have been working on for a couple of years, going back to when Mrs. Ahmed was here, and I spoke to that on Monday, is that there is a need for the district to consider investing in a formal early childhood special education preschool education program. Based on Ms. Smith's feedback at the last Board of Education, the district only has 48 spots through GSRP for early childhood special education, for early childhood. 86 families, based on Ms. Smith's feedback, applied for those positions. At the last kindergarten roundup in the spring at the community center, 7 families came up inquiring about what is the district's plan. Mr. Nagy, Mr. Al-Hadi, Mr. Wierwicki, and I did do some visits around the district, the new property that the district bought, properties that the district bought, and visited some of the existing buildings that the district has, just to do an assessment on feasibility. And the determination was that none of the buildings have adequate space that can be used for additional classrooms for various reasons. Either they need major reconstruction, or they don't meet fire marshal code, or they do not meet child care licensing rules and requirements. The revised school code dictates that the student in kindergarten and below cannot be in the basement and cannot be on the second floor. So your space on all of the buildings have accessibility issues in terms of flights of stairs and where classrooms are located. So I think that is something that the district should give some serious consideration to evaluate and assess how space is allocated and whether the space is adequate and whether there's enough space to accommodate the increase in demand at that age range. So without adequate space, what is ended up happening is, if we take our early childhood special education student population and look at their programming, if we were in any other district, early childhood special education programming operates for 2 3/4 a day for an AM session, and then a repeat with a different group of students for 2 3/4 hours a session for the PM. And usually we separate younger kids in one session, older kids in another session, with the requirement that we provide that population of students 450 hours of instruction per year. And embedded in that program, the student would then receive their special education support services, speech, OT, PT, and all of those services that the IEP indicates are needed. Because we do not have a special education early childhood program in the district, the students are receiving walk-in services only, scheduled at about half hour a session, once a week. That is a glaring inequity if we're looking at, if they were in other districts, what would they be receiving? The district felt the need to close the early childhood special education programs about 27 years ago. I think we are past the point where we need to start looking at reinstituting that program. Because we don't have this program, and because the numbers are increasing, we have a caseload of 14 students at this point, and more to be evaluated. We have reached out to Wayne Risa Wayne Risa put us in touch with a district in the county who is willing to enter into a cooperative agreement with Hamtramck Public Schools to take early childhood special education students that require an early childhood special education program. That doesn't necessarily mean all of our students in that age range will go to that program. We will still have some students that don't need that highly structured environment. They can benefit from just services, and those can still be provided here. The pressure in this area is also real. If Grosse Pointe Public Schools notified us last January, they're projected full for this September, all of the kids who are in early on, once they reach the age of 3 years of age, it becomes the responsibility of Hamtramck Public Schools to handle that transition out of early on and into specialized programming if that is what is needed. So, across the span of the rest of this year, we're gonna have some more students coming out of early on that are going to require additional programming. At this point, that district that we're trying to partner with is able to provide space for one classroom. That's the teacher that they have, and if their need increases, they need to increase staffing, which opens some doors and opportunities for students from Hamtramck. What I would like the board to expect is we finished the consultation and negotiation on Tuesday. An update was provided to council to review the agreement. We would like to reconvene a meeting on Monday with the district. There's some loose ends that they have to figure out. And then when we are all set, this will be placed, there will be a request to place this agreement on a COW meeting, the next COW meeting, for discussion, and then on the next board meeting as an action item. If the board approves, then we can move, our board, you have to approve and agree, as well as the partnering districts board that has to also review, approve, and agree. And your timeline, your meetings are off by 1 week. I think we go first and their meetings are after yours. And if we are all in agreement, and this agreement meets the needs of both districts, and we agree financially on the compensation, then we would then shift to having conversations with parents and start that planning, visits to the district, meeting the teacher, that orientation intake. And then if everybody's agreeing, then IEPs would be held and transportation would be initiated for the group of students that would be leaving the district for that program placement. Mr. Hedwin, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is Mr. Hedwin, Madeline Hedwin. Would it be a good idea to get parents' input on that possibility prior to moving forward and doing it all the way through and then speaking to the parents?
It would be. I agree that would be an important step to handle. Outside of parent input, which would always be also welcomed at the IEP meeting as well. I think if there are some parents that have hesitation about their children leaving the district to attend a program outside the district, that is their right. However, what we're trying to do here is offer an option for all parents. Parents will have an option to accept and an option to decline. But we do need to meet the needs of the students, and we do have that obligation to meet the needs of the students. Through the IEP process, parents can disagree or decline. And we will work with parents on that. Special ed staffing, there is currently a need for 3 special education teachers. The caseload is increasing at DE. DE is our largest elementary school. The caseload is already large. The projected evaluations for this year is also high at DE. So there is definitely a need to add 1 teacher at DE. We spoke briefly about the 2 special education teachers that are needed at ECE. They're included in this total. There is currently a need for 7 special education parapros. Some of those 7 are replacement for people that have resigned, but also to enhance the staffing level at all of our elementary schools. So those 7 parapros are specifically for the elementary school. We don't have the same needs at the middle school or the high school. And the need that exists is pretty much the 4th graders and below, that is the greatest evident area of need at this point. The district also has a need for 4 social workers, and depending on some new development, we may need a 5th social worker. 2 of the social workers that are needed are to fill grant-funded positions serving general education students, and 2, possibly a 3rd, as of the conversation from this morning, is for special education. We still don't have the school psychologist position filled from last November. There was 1 applicant that applied for the position. They declined it. I'm told they declined it because they took a position closer to home for childcare needs that they had. In the meantime, we contracted with a psychologist through one of our contracting agencies, and unfortunately that did not work. There were some concerns, and it was decided that we need to keep looking for that position to be filled. At this point, all of the work of the school psychologist for Taubera, Holbrook, DE, and ECE is reverting back to me to complete. Same process as what we went through last year. The applicant pool for some of these positions has either been light to non-existent. It is very tight out there. So to address the staffing needs, we did meet as administrators and with union partnership, we reviewed the needs, and we reached an agreement on 9/14 for a recruitment incentive for up to $15,000 per year, prorated on the number of days worked in a year. So if we hire somebody in December, they're eligible to receive that $15,000 on a prorated rate, on a per diem rate. So if they work 100 days, then that $15,000 would be rated on 100 days of work, not 180 days. And that individual, so long that they work for the district, would be eligible for that incentive for up to 5 years, for 5 years, not up to 5 years. That incentive covers anything that's going into special ed teachers, social workers, and psychologists. That's the area of greatest need. This is an incentive that other districts have in place and have had in place for over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, for various reasons, we're coming in late into this game. When the district did offer the incentives were half as much as what is currently being offered. And we are still in a place where, in spite of the negotiations that took place this summer, and before we had this incentive in place, we were outbeat by districts who had either a higher compensation rate or they've had a long-standing incentive for recruitment in place before Hamtramck had. So we're competing against other districts that have had this figured out a long time ago. And I'm glad that we're here. I want to take a time to thank the union, Tony Coral and Mr. Maher, for their support and understanding that this is a critical area that needs to be filled for the sake of the students, as well as the sake of the staff that are feeling the brunt of the shortage. What we have also done is included in that memorandum of understanding compensation, an incentive to compensate anyone willing to come into special ed for special ed endorsements. So if there is a teacher that is interested in shifting into special ed, so long that they matriculate in the program, show evidence that they're active in pursuing that degree, they're able to pass the teacher test, the MTTC, at the end of the program, and add the endorsement to their license and commit to work with the district for 5 years, they would be eligible for $15,000 a year for incentive to offset the cost of that additional endorsement. That if there's ever a reason for a separation, whether it's voluntary or otherwise, then depending on what percentage of the 5-year that individual completed in employment with the district, then they would have, the district has the ability to recoup a certain percentage based on the number of years of completion. But it's critical that the individual is successful in the program, leading to adding the endorsement to their teaching certificate. We are also short, social workers interviews were held yesterday. They needed to be rescheduled from Monday because of conflict of interest. Another meeting came up. We weren't able to bring everybody back to yesterday's interview, and they're split up. We have some scheduled for tomorrow, and I believe one additional one for Friday. So we're still trying to recruit for social work positions. And at this point, we're prioritizing the special education social worker over the general education social worker. Staffing needs. We've met in August before school started. And we had a conversation about the shortage of staff, especially for ECE. There was a debate and a discussion about nobody has applied. What's the game plan? Are we looking at existing staff with existing certification that we can consider for placement? So that was, I believe, either the 29th or September 1st. I need to look at my note. We needed to reconvene that meeting on September 30th to do that comprehensive review to see where we can, to do an assessment of who's available for us already in the district before we go outside the district, considering that we haven't been able to recruit from outside the district. So at this point, there's some work that needs to be done through Mr. Nagy and Pupil Accounting to review enrollment. And that work is in the works through the superintendent's office. As of today, we reached out to substitute teachers with special education qualifications that are interested in coming into the district for long-term special education placement. Ideally, we would like to have people hired for the position so we can invest in them, so that they can go to training, they can be more deeply involved in helping develop a program that is in its first year of implementation. So those interviews are scheduled on Friday, just to determine out of the 4 candidates who is most suitable for the position, and preferably who has the special ed experience, if not the special education endorsement. We're looking for this staff to have an effective date of start on Monday the 17th. We're talking only about ECE. And give them a couple of days to visit classrooms, speak with teachers, get a feel for who are the students, what are their needs, understand the complicated needs that exist, the behavioral needs, the nonverbal needs, the need for a highly structured environment before they commit, and just so that they're prepared, so that when the students do return, that's a successful environment for the staff and for the students. Naturally, we understand that there is a need for increased support. We currently have ASDTC support in Holbrook and DE. The meeting today with ECE was starting Monday, prioritizing ECE and general ed staff at ECE to prepare for what's coming for Wednesday. When this is addressed, thank you everybody. When this is addressed, we currently have 6 students on reduced day. 2 students are students with IEPs, 4 students are students that need to go through the evaluation process. I will be conducting parent contact following our meetings on Friday and alerting parents of the need to resume full-time enrollment and attendance at ECE. We're looking for that projected date to start on Wednesday. We are currently also in the process of recruiting additional special education paras. We spoke about those earlier with the specific assignment to ECE. We spoke about the school psychologist. I don't need to repeat that. Enrollment trends. I would like to provide you with a comparison. At this time last year, when the board asked me to provide a presentation following the departure of the school psychologist and how far behind we were in evaluations, we had 45 evaluations by November. The number for this year is 114 initial evaluations. When I stated in my opening statements, we are busy, that was an underestimation. Those are 114 initial evaluations. Those are not students that we can casually do a quick pass, review records and say, yeah, they are still eligible. These are in-depth initial evaluations. The referrals are coming in from MTSS. Some of them came last year. The referrals are coming in from parent request or clinic request. There is movement into the district from out of state. And again, the same as last year, we are experiencing movement also from outside the country. So there seems to be a trend where people residing in the United Kingdom are starting to relocate to Hamtramck. This is the second year that we've experienced that. But the most of the referrals and movements are coming in from New York. So the New York community seems to be drawn to the Hamtramck community, mostly out of the Bronx. The majority of the students are settling at Dickinson East and at Early Childhood Elementary, same as last year. If I have my piles of students to evaluate, my pile for ECE is this deep, DE is this deep, I have maybe 3 or 4 files for Tau Beta, maybe 3 or 4 files for Holbrook. I want to remind the board and the staff that the placement isn't handled through my office. The placement is handled through residency and enrollment based on space availability. We are not targeting DE or ECE and funneling students there. There is an enrollment process that's based on address, spot availability at the grade level that's needed in the neighborhood school. If there is a spot, that's the preferred location for the student. If there is not a spot, then overflow has to go somewhere else. That's been a long-standing Hamtramck Public School practice that continues till today. And we're here to accommodate the enrollment trend that the district experiences. And I can tell you that there's been some contention around the increased enrollment that is netting a placement in students' schools, in schools that are not the students' neighborhood schools. And that is something that through strategic planning, hopefully the district can review the districting process based on available building space and grade reconfiguration. And again, I'd be happy to be part of that conversation, but that conversation is above me. But I think that is something that is critically needed at this time. In addition to the 114 initial evaluations, we have 78 re-evaluations for the present year. Remember, we need 2 psychologists, and starting this year, there was a conversation about going for a 3rd psychologist. We can't even fill the one that is open. So it's myself and Dr. Pecora that have to tackle this workload in an environment where we haven't been able to be appropriately staffed. I also want to mention that the district did apply for a grant to increase social workers and psychologists. We were approved for that grant. However, we haven't been able to find the candidate, especially for the school psychologist. That grant paid 100% of the psych salary for year 1, 66% year 2, 33% year 3, and by year 4, the expectation is that psychologist shift from being grant funded to being district funded to add staffing, not replace staffing. I work with Ms. Lynham on this. We are approved, but we can't find a suitable candidate for that position. So we are moving in a direction where with the volume of work that we need, there is a need for additional staffing in the special education department. Continuing enrollment trend, this is something that's emerging that is a continuation of from last year. The majority of students moving into the district that require special education services are continuing to fall under the autism spectrum disorder. Very few LDs, SLIs, or other categories. The majority of the students are in need of ASD evaluations and ASD programming. A new emerging trend that I'm starting to communicate with Mr. Nagy on and Wayne Risa, as well as Detroit Public Schools. There's an increasing number of families that are objecting to placement in categorical programs in Detroit Public Schools who are now shifting enrollment to Hamtramck Public Schools. And remember, for Detroit Public Schools, some of the programs that are operated do not exist in Hamtramck. But yet, the obligation to provide those programs and services starts with Hamtramck. So when we have parents that are in SXI, SCI, POHI, deaf and hard of hearing, or even autism, or MOCI, moderately cognitively impaired, that are raising concerns about attending school outside the community, especially if it's Detroit Public Schools, they're starting to come back to the district and enroll. That raises some concerns. But first, some of the concerns that are being communicated by parents is the distance of travel, transportation concerns, the diversity that is experienced, and parents feeling not supported by virtue of the cultures, customs, traditions, or even language barriers. I am fully aware of the bottom item. We have been repeatedly in conversation with Detroit to help stage that welcoming atmosphere for parents when they come in, which starts with, if we refer you a family, notify us when you accept them, give us a start date, let's schedule an orientation meeting, let's schedule a program visit, let's make sure the students' records reach the building before the student reaches the building, and let's notify me so I can go with the parents and walk them through the process. That has not worked smoothly. There's been many conversations. A complaint was raised with Wayne Risa, and a meeting was held on Tuesday that resulted in Detroit Public Schools having to refine their process to enhance our engagement in that process, so when parents go for that enrollment, they're not unsupported. At minimum, I am looking for someone that can remove the language barrier. The customs, the traditions, the culture, all of that, we can work through that. But if they are not able to communicate, and we don't know, and we don't provide that support to the family's gonna turn around and leave and say, I don't wanna go there. Some of the other concerns that parents are raising is things that are beyond our control. We cannot help that in order to keep Detroit Public Schools safe, the fences around the building have to be bigger than the building and taller than the building. We can't help that when you get into the building, the first thing that you have to do is walk through a metal detector confronted by a security guard who's questioning why you're there. Those are just the environment, community where we live. That's the experience that we all have to go through when we enter schools. But for Hamtramck, when we don't have that climate, when we don't have that atmosphere, and our families leave the safety environment and they go to this larger environment, and this is their first experience, that's off-putting for some families. And that's a concern for some families. So there are some things that we can help, but then there are some things that they are what they are, and we'll try to work with them, and we'll try to support families on that. And there are some other concerns that parents are raising about the quality of the program, and there are some parents that are asserting their rights. We live in a community, it's your responsibility, we don't want to accept programs outside the district. That, it is what it is, we'll work with it. However, the alert that I would like to put out here is that if this gains momentum and this gains traction where we have increase in number of families returning, we need to go back to assess capacity. I'm not talking about staff. At this point, I'm talking about physical capacity. Do we have the room and the space to accommodate students? And then we'll get the teacher, then we'll get the program set up. But at this point, it is space. And space that is ADA compliant. So we have staff capacity. If this trend continues, we are going to need to work with general ed, we need to work with special ed, we need to work with administration. We also need to develop our specialized capacity to support needs of students that are moderate to severe with multifaceted needs. Buildings have to be looked at for ADA compliance, accessibility, a lot of stairs in our building. The concern is there's not a location that is not threshold-free access. And again, I want to emphasize prioritizing early childhood special education. Thank you for your time. I know it's been long. We are all working hard. We are all working hard to meet the needs of our community. There's been some difficult conversations that were had with parents. There's been some difficult conversations that have been had amongst ourselves as staff, administrators, supervisors, subordinates. It is not ill-intentioned. It is intended to put the light on the issue where the issue is. We will continue to work in partnership. We're not looking for hostility. We're not looking for adversality, an adversarial environment or relationship. But there are some challenges that we need to start working on together and to work with you as a board. My parting word to the board, please, let's schedule a reconvene and a review of the strategic plan. That strategic plan was consolidated and finalized before pandemic. Our needs right now, especially in special ed, is not reflected in that strategic plan, especially not with the forces and factors that we are challenged with. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer any of your questions.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, I'll save it for the cow. Maybe that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Awad.
Thank you.
So we have quite a few audience participation forms. I would like to go and take a 5-minute recess break if you guys, do you want a quick 5 minutes?
So
Okay,
I'm
so
taking a break.
we will take a couple minutes and we'll be right back.
How many?
5 minutes.
Can I pass my papers while here? For a minute. I have a ton of them. Yeah, I'll give them to you. Yeah. Might as well, right?
Oh, yeah, get it. Sure. If I get yelled at, it's coming out. Take my hat. Girl, you should have said you got it. That's what I said. I said, just give it.
Still signing, huh? Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I could have fixed it for you so that they're easier to find.
My last one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. That was tough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, okay. I need that. I want to actually run out to my summer.
So we're gonna last game is at 4:30 or
4 o'clock match.
4? I don't know, it's 4:30.
It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Some of those guys need to be on. Like, why do we do that? Especially when it comes to New York. I was going to, but I would be
Ms. Joanne, can you make a notation that Mr. Chowdhury had to leave? All right, so next up we have audience participation. So this portion of the board agenda is for citizens to address any questions or comments to the board. The board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement and not respond at this time. The preceding officer will refer questions to the superintendent for research and responses. Also, please do not make any accusations using employees' names as they are afforded rights through an official process. All inquiries to that process can be directed to the superintendent's office. First up, we have Samar Lukman. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Lukman, let me know so I can start the time.
My name is Samara Lookman. I am the VP of the American PAC. I am also a pro bono advocate for students with special needs and social justice. I was very appalled hearing your director of special ed talking about moving kids or converting them out of ASD categorical classroom because you didn't have the logistics. You didn't have the teachers. I'll advise you that that's against the law. Students are to be placed in classrooms based on their needs and not based on whether or not the school board or district has teachers in place. Also, he mentioned that there were 6 students on half days, 2 on IEPs and 4 without IEPs. That again is a violation of faith. You cannot go ahead and place students at whim. You need to actually go through the read and the IEP in order to do so. I'm here to speak more specifically to the roles and responsibilities of the superintendent and the board. Is it true that one of the board members, I don't expect any answers by the way, one of the board members launched an investigation using district funds without the approval of other board members? Is it true that this investigation is using our taxpayer dollars and was initiated without a meeting or at least informing the public in violation of the Open Meetings Act? Is it true that one board member attempted to reinstate a suspended employee at his own whim and witnesses there? Is it true that all these actions were taken on the advice of counsel and or Dickinson Wright? Our PAC is prepared to FOIA all of the board communications at this point. As a social justice and special needs advocate, I'm well versed in the state mandated policies about the roles, responsibilities, and rights of the public school boards and superintendent. And even a layman can tell you that if any of those allegations are true, then the board member and the district council have committed grave and egregious violations against the district staff and the public. If true, then these allegations warrant the dismissal of the district council for breach of contract in that he has violated policies which were meant to protect the public and the implementation of district policies. If true, then Dickinson Wright is opening this board to even more liabilities and lawsuits that will cost us, the taxpayers, hundreds of thousands of dollars when you haven't even finished the settlement with the prior superintendent. And also that their firm could make a few more $1,000s on frivolous investigations. If true, then the board member and the board president is a liability to you all, the board and the public, and he needs to be removed from his position as board president. I will remind the board that the state of Michigan requirements for superintendent positions include requiring a master's degree and or experience in development and implementation of educational programs. If any of you wish to act like a superintendent or be a superintendent, then I urge you to resign from your post and apply to become one. But if you do not, then please revisit board policies and know your roles. And if none of these allegations are true, we're asking that the district get its act together.
That's 3 minutes.
The public is tired of having to babysit. We're tired of an incessant infighting between you all. We're here for the kids, not so that you can act like one.
All right, next up we have Linda Rayburn.
She's here.
Hello.
Hi.
Let me know when you're ready so I can start your timer.
How long do I have?
3 minutes.
Sure. Alrighty, I'm ready.
All right.
Hello, my name is Linda Rayburn.
I am glad to be here and thank you for listening. I was a long-term substitute teacher at Horizon in the 2021-22 school year during the pandemic. I get tremendous joy working within a team atmosphere like Horizon while serving a diverse group of students through their educational journey. I am also a resident and active community member that continues to uplift those very students in the neighborhood. This leads me to my main point of having your attention this evening, which is to discuss my experience applying for a new position that opened up at the end of last school year called the Culture and Climate Support Specialist. I excitedly applied for this position due to being qualified and already fulfilling the majority of the roles in the job description, which was due to the flexibility, resources, and extra time I had on top of teaching that year. In my application and interview, my passion was oozing, expressing initiatives, goals, and the willingness to learn and collaborate with fellow teachers and staff for the upcoming school year. Overall, I am unsure how the hiring process was decided, but I am concerned about getting an interview weeks before school started when I applied for it months prior. Also not receiving a call back or any form of contact, which I had to email inquiring if I got the job or not days before school started. Receiving a reply that they were moving forward with another candidate. So I hope this process isn't the norm. I just want the best for myself, other fellow workers, and the amazing students and families that we serve. Thank you for this time.
Next up, we have Hiba Mesto. Let me know when you're ready to start.
Good evening. My name is Hiba Mesto. I'm the Culture and Climate Specialist at Horizon High School. Culture sensitivity, valuing diversity and equal opportunity. 3 words long to be heard and nearly to be practiced in this school district. I come here to express my deep concern and frustration caused by unprofessional work ethics practiced by parties that find my existence in this district a threat. From day when I was hired in this district, I was showered by unwelcoming looks that would lead to say, what is she doing here? I felt uncomfortable as I was never put in a situation where people around me would make me feel unwelcome. Few days into my position, I was reported as stoic, cold, rude, and uncomfortable in my position based on a 2-minute introduction to one of the staff members. I related this comment to the fear of a change and did not react to such accusations as I believed that my work ethics and dedication would flush them out. Later on, I was faced with more aggressive accusations, people questioning my qualities and education left and right, people smelling smoke when my work responsibilities were expanded. My culture and climate position was discussed and live streamed for over 20 minutes in a very unprofessional and insulting way, leading to many staff members showing up in my office over the next few days asking me what's this weird position about. Things today come to an end. Soon enough, more frowns and aggressiveness were revealed. Introduced to the winery representative who brought me in the funding to my position as follows. This is Ms. Mesto. She's hired for the position, as far as I know. She's taking care of other responsibilities, and I don't know how she will be doing this, leaving me speechless with such a belittling introduction to a person who's funding me. Of course, things did not stop to this extent. I was questioned further by the school secretary, asking me if I knew that other people were being interviewed for this position, and to come back when she makes sure that the school principal is aware of being hired in this position. In addition, she asked me if I'm aware that this position is fund-based, which means I will no longer have it once the funds run out. Which means don't feel comfortable. I felt harassed, unwelcome, treated like a 3rd-degree employee, if not a 4th. Nevertheless, while fulfilling my duties as a family engagement specialist and announcing my clubs to parent, which will include ESL classes as directed by the EL department, I got a call in the morning from an upset principal who wants me to shut down the program because I am being competitive with adult ed, which has nothing to do with it. A few hours later, I received a cancellation email from another principal and she was discussing her terms and conditions of letting me have the program on her school grounds, stating that she should have discussed that earlier. However, we already had the meeting, we already had the discussions, and we already had the planning done. That caused me enough distress, and I was overwhelmed by tons of accusations and rejection. Later, during the same day, I received an email from the school counselor mentioning everything I've been doing in my culture and climate position, accusing me of breaching student confidentiality, looking at unauthorized documents, and suggesting unrealistic attendance plans to students. Mind you that her office is far from mine, and we both have shop doors, but looks like mine is invisible. And everyone is in my business, coming up with with anything that can be held against me. She did not settle for sending the email to my supervisor, who is the principal, but she also copied the union president and
That's-
other teachers on it,
That's 3
putting me.
minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can also provide the written.
I will. I do have emails and documentation of everything. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Michelle Cook. Let me know where you're at.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready?
Good evening, my name is Michelle Cook, and I am the kindergarten through 3rd grade teacher for the Virtual Learning Institute. I'm here tonight to express my concerns about our Virtual Learning Institute. I transferred into VLI this year and was eager to contact my families and meet my students. Although the students have a webmail account assigned to them, trying to contact families this way proved futile, and I was not given any other contact information for the majority of my students until 2 weeks after the start of school. At this point, I was given one phone number per student that was able to be accessed through the Pearson platform. I was not given a class list in MyStar, and still to this day, I do not have a class list in MyStar. Once I was given phone numbers, I began to call my students' families to describe when we would hold virtual meetings and to answer questions. I began to hear from many families that their child was attending Islamic school. This seemed to conflict with the times that I would be holding virtual meetings. In fact, the first time that I saw most of my students was when they arrived at Dickinson West to do in-person iReady testing on October 3rd through 4th. Most students arrived and departed together, transported in minivans or SUVs. Through conversations with parents, it seems clear that they believe that their child will participate in our academic program while attending private school after their Islamic studies are done for the day. I believe that 8 of my students are attending Al-Quran Academy of Michigan and that 15 of my students go to Darul Aloom. Is the board aware of this arrangement? How can our public school district be supporting private schools with our resources? I believe that this arrangement goes against the Michigan Constitution's prohibition against using public resources to support private schools. Even if it weren't, many of these students are failing their subjects. Our job as a school district is to educate students, and the VLI program falls far short of this core mission. I urge the board to do what is right by the students and to ensure that our program is in compliance with the Michigan Constitution that you all swore an oath to uphold. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next up, we have Tony Coral. When you're ready.
My name is Tony Coral, President of Hamtramck Federation of Teachers. This meeting started with a little bit of love. Love exists where there is trust. For there to be trust, there must be open communication. There should be no questions about the hiring practices of our HR department. Principals should be able to make decisions about who works in their building, and we have heard far too often that that is not the case. There should be no question about how we let a social worker who we so desperately need slip through our hands. There should be no questions about whether or not the district's VLI program, which Ms. Cook just talked about, which has never presented to this board, is going to cause the district to lose money because Comp Day was perhaps mishandled, or because this district is providing what looks like the entire academic programming for 2 or 3 private tuition-based schools. If everything is on the up and up, why the lack of transparency? This is a public school district, and it does not answer to investors, but to the public. Thus, HFT has filed FOIAs to get long-needed answers from both HR and VLI. The board could request these same documents, and perhaps you have, and I've missed that. Our team will pour over the documents that we receive, and will be more than happy to share what we find with you. I'm hoping it's good, but I have a bad feeling.
All right, next up we have Anthony Kiner. Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Kiner.
Oh, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm speaking on behalf of HA, as the HA president. We really wanted to come, we actually wanted to come last month, but obviously we didn't have a board meeting. And we really wanted to talk to you guys about a year ago today, we were promised a committee for hiring. We were promised. HFT was promised, HA was promised, ASME was promised. And we're at a point where we need that committee. We need it. Because I can tell you from that meeting when we were gonna talk last month, building to building, department to department, it goes different across the board. Depends on who you are. From position to position, it depends. That can't happen. We need a system of hiring. How you hire in a district, we need it. And I'm telling you right now, HA's ready to go. I know HFT is ready to go. I know ASME is ready to go. Let's get a committee together and get this right. Because I know this, we have great staff, we have great parents, we have great children in this district. And we owe it to them as leaders to put the best people in front of our kids. And right now, we're failing our kids, and we can't do that anymore. We just can't. I always say, it's real simple in leadership. If it's good for kids, you try to do it as hard as you can. Unless it's illegal or something like that, like you just don't, you just go, right? I mean, I'm being honest though. Like if it's good for kids, we do it. And if we don't, we stop, right? And right now we're at a point, we gotta do what's good for kids. All right, so please, I'm begging you, get a committee together so we can get this hiring process down and get everyone's needs, from HA's needs, to the board's needs, to central office needs, to HFT, to ASME's needs, everyone in between. We can do this. We can do this. We have to work as a team to get this done. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right, next up, this thing's dead. Next up, we have Rosemary Hackle. Oh, it looks like an L, I'm sorry. Please let me know when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Hickey, first grade teacher at ECE. I've been teaching in Hamtramck Public Schools for about almost 30 years in January. Love it. Today is day 26 since we started school. On this 26th day of school, I come to school as I always do for the children, who I teach with a smile on my face. They deserve a happy teacher who is so happy they are there. They also deserve a teacher who has all the support to give them the education they truly deserve. Kudos to the amazing staff in HPS. We support one another. I will continue to teach my students even though I feel the deck is stacked against us. I always give more than 100% to my students because they deserve it. What they don't deserve is that so much of what is going on within the district is not in compliance in so many ways. It is heartbreaking and it is affecting my students. I have 2 students in my class who have IEPs. Have they been seen as of day 26? No, not once. Were we told on day 1 that if we don't have a special education teacher, that this individual would be here until a teacher could be found? Have we seen this person? No. First of all, I feel like this was told to us to keep us quiet. As I tell my students, telling the truth is most respectful. In addition, I am very detailed about my MTSS record keeping. The system is failing the students. I have 2 students I did MTSS process for starting in October 2021 who are now in 2nd grade. It has been almost a year and those students have not been tested. They should have been evaluated long ago. It's a failure of the system. I've emailed 2 letters. Letter 1, I received a visit from 1 of 2 people. The other letter, I received no response. In addition, a child in our district who started last week in HPS Elementary School was told the child could only attend 1 hour and 45 minutes per day. The only time a para can provide support, one-on-one support. When mom called HPS, she was told his IEP was acceptable. However, when she went to enroll her child, she was told that the IEP could not be accepted. This mom is very frustrated and confused. This is just one of many situations occurring in HPS. Finally, we have students at ECE who have been told the school closest to them is full, whereas in fact the grade is not full. One student's home is right next door to one elementary school and yet was told to go to ECE. This is a shame. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Lynn Falco. Let me know when you're ready.
Sure, I'm ready.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Dear HPS family, my name is Lynn Balco. I am a kindergarten teacher at ECE and have been for the past 9 years. I absolutely love my job. I love teaching my children and all the kids and watching them learn and grow. I am writing on behalf of myself, my staff at ECE, and all of our beautiful children that attend our school. This year has been a struggle for myself personally as well as for my teachers in our building. We do not have a special education teacher. We are in desperate need of assistance with our special education children, our children who are also on MTSS or going to be, and children who are being evaluated with IEPs. Please send us more help. It is extremely difficult to teach our curriculum to our children and to adhere to our schedule when much of our time is needed or being used to help our special education children. Each classroom has 2 to 3 children with special needs in it, and we are in desperate need of help. Please help us. Thank you.
Next up, we have Wafa El Hadwan. Please let me know when you're ready.
Ready. I come before you with a statement that I hope will inspire some courtesy, consideration, and fair treatment amongst one another. As you all may or may not be aware of, I have spent most of my time working for the district trying my best to silently dodge waves of attacks on my character and credibility. And although it has been unbearable at times, I am more concerned for those who are enduring this type of treatment but do not feel they have a voice or that they are respected enough to be heard. Many have been subjected to numerous attacks, questions regarding their qualifications without a clear reason for why. My family has been in the city for decades, and I have never seen such aggressive pushback towards leadership prior to these past few years. Even when our students in schools were failing miserably for decades and our district was in a deficit, these collective attempts to deem people incompetent has never happened before. There have been many attempts to discredit HR, which has severely disrupted an honest hiring process. Questions, concerns regarding job descriptions, roles, salaries, and positions seem to be presented only after it is known which candidate has been chosen. When creating an interview panel, HR is always asking for participation from our administrators, union leaders, and board members. There is an open invitation should they want to be involved in the interview process. A majority of the time, said invitation is declined, and yet when the interview panel chooses the best candidate, those very people who decline to participate scream foul. This year, HPS has likely hired over 25 individuals. This leads me to a question for which I seek no answer but will leave you all to ponder on. Why have we only ever seen pushback, emails, FOIA, requests, attacks, dismay, and or questions of credibility after the hiring of a minority, or by a minority, a person of color, or a person of a different religious or cultural background?
Ain't no person of color working in this building right here.
Let her finish talking.
Ain't no person of color working in this building right here.
Let her finish talking. It's her turn to talk.
That's one.
Okay.
Now, who else of color working in this building right here?
You got
You
your
had
turn
your
to
turn to
talk,
talk.
this is not a discussion.
Yes.
I can speak.
No,
that's
you can't
wrong. She shouldn't even say that.
You cannot speak if.
I am gonna speak.
No, you cannot speak. If you want to, you can leave.
In this whole district, since all of you came here,
Okay.
you only hide a certain segment,
Mr.
and it's
Nadi,
wrong.
escorted out.
And I said it in city council meeting, and I'm saying it here, and I'm gonna keep saying it. That's wrong for her to say that about minorities. What minorities she talking about?
Wendy Thornton, Nicolisha
What minorities is she talking about?
If you can't maintain decorum, please leave the meeting.
You make me leave. What minorities is she talking about?
Mr.
What
Nadi,
minorities?
No, it's fine.
Because it's a lie. That's only targeted toward a certain segment that work in this dang old building right here. Now you all can get mad if you want to, because I'm telling the truth.
He finishes.
And if some of you live
Go
in
ahead and
Hamtramck,
finish your
I said
statement.
the same damn thing at the city council meeting
Go
when
ahead
they
and
said they
finish
wanted to
your
hire a
statement.
certain person.
Okay. Finish your statement.
Well, when he finished talking.
Now you make
Go
another
ahead
statement
and
wrong, I'm gonna
finish-
say something
finish
else.
Making your statement, please.
Stop it.
As I was saying, after the hiring of a minority, a person of color, or a person of a different religious or
What person of
Keep
color
going.
work here?
Keep going.
That's what I thought.
a person of color, or a person of a different religious or cultural background. These waves of attacks come both officially and unofficially from staff, employees, leaders, the union, and so forth. We never see an uproar or a single question when a person who does not fall into any minority category is hired or promoted. Nevertheless, I imagine this will be the case moving forward now that I have mentioned it, and that is the issue that is deeply rooted in this district. Takedown and smear tactics have become extremely predictable and has furthered a toxic work environment. There is a detrimental common practice that many at HPS have experienced where there becomes a teaming of individuals, departments, and leaders who attempt to make work difficult and miserable for those they wish to push out. I believe that we all need to take a moment to pause and reflect on our own morals and values. I would like to plead on our leaders to make a conscious effort to stray away from retaliatory and hostile behaviors or actions that may be perceived in such a way. I aim to encourage a more healthy work environment for all. Employees should feel safe to speak out against injustice, ask for help, and voice their concerns without fear of being disregarded, ostracized, or retaliated against, like
what?
Like right now. And I intend to continue to promote a workplace where everyone is heard without bias. Minorities have the right to be heard and taken seriously. The residents of this community deserve to be heard and respected. The children, our children, are the ones who pay the salaries of each and every HPS employee. Thank you.
What children? What children? But you didn't say that when they had them white boys up there doing stuff. You didn't say nothing. You didn't say anything.
Okay, Mr. Naji, where's Mr. Naji?
He's in the hallway.
No, it's okay.
Do we have somebody coming in?
You only hiring one-sided up here.
Call the next person, please.
All right, next up we have Vicki Smith.
All right, then. I don't need a mic, I'm just gonna say, being a coach and married to a man who wears hearing aids. Can we start now? I'm ready. My name is Vicki Smith. I'm the principal at ECE. I love my school, I love my staff, and more importantly, I love the community. I have worked really hard in this district. We've done a lot in the short period I've been here. Last year I was deemed highly effective and our scores were the highest in the district. This year I feel like it's become it's impossible for my staff to work there. It's really bad for the students. We see the 6 students who they say are half day. Before the school year started, I told the cabinet here, these people up here who represent the district, that how can we start school with no special education teachers, no social worker, no school psychologist, very few parents. I made this transparently clear in July with phone calls, also in August 3rd, August 22nd, August 27th, August 28th, numerous emails, and I was told not to put things in writing, but I'm smarter than that. I'm not a dumb blonde, and I continue to do that. Since then, I have experienced retaliation and harassment. I have contacted the board about this, and it continues. And today, I received an email from 2 individuals in the district office who questioned me as to why students are half-time. Do you know why they're half-time? Because there's nobody there for those kids to service them. The day we opened school, we were in non-compliance, and the folks in this district office knew that, and they put us in position at ECE for breaking the law. So I took kids into the school, and I'm not going to change that because we're here for all children. I took kids in this school and I got chastised for that. I got phone calls about that, and I didn't deserve that because there's anybody here, there is not one person here will say, Vicki Smith lies. Vicki Smith does not tell the truth because I am brutally honest, whether people want to hear that or not, and I will fight for my building and I will fight for these kids, and I am not going to go away, and I'm not going to be quietly fired. I am here. I'm bigger than just about everybody but Anthony Kiner. I'm not going anywhere because I am being harassed. My staff is. When they talked about the conflict Monday, you know what that was? That was a parent meeting
because the parents at ECE had enough. That was the conflict on Monday. So no, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna continue to fight for my kids, and that trivialized investigation that this lady talked about, who I don't know who she is, it's not trivial to me when I can't sleep at night, when I'm sick in my heart about what's being done, when I am being harassed and my staff is afraid to speak up. We have the right to speak up for kids, and we're gonna continue to do that, whether it steps on anybody's toes or not. If you don't want me stepping on your toe, then back out of my way and let me do my job for these kids. Thank you. Next.
Next up, we have Mother Fadel.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. Yeah, from all what we heard so far, I mean, the district look like it's a mess. And it's a lot of things is going on, and I don't know if the board is aware of that or not. We support our superintendents, and we want you guys to let him do his job. We don't want you to act like you are in a UN Security Council. You are a school board, and you're not a chief of, you're not on the front line of a border of China and Taiwan or Russia, and let the people do their job and do not interfere with the staff or the employees. And if they didn't listen to you, do not try to threaten them or tell them that you're going to do this or that or get people to vote against them, because this is not fair and you guys are violating. Do what you're supposed to do by the rules and by the book. And this is our message, and it's the community message also, and the parents' message. We don't want to hear any mess or any scandals. And it's a lot of things being going on, and if you guys didn't handle it, it's gonna be a mess, and you guys gonna be ashamed. I won't be ashamed of you too. Thank you.
Next up, we have George Hellerose.
I'm used to it. Good evening, everyone. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. There's been one thing keeping me from speaking, and that's fear of retaliation. I'm afraid to speak out because I'm afraid what's going to happen to me. In this district, there's a history of teachers being retaliated against. So I feel the need to tell you a little bit about myself first. I've been at Hamtramck for 6 years. For 5 of those 6 years, I've been rated highly effective. My last 5 years. My first year, I was effective. 5 highly effectives. I'm mentored by Rula Bobasi, who's run the DECA Club for years for Hamtramck. She's amazing, and we are federally recognized. I apologize if I'm breaking up. I'm very angry and very passionate right now. So I won't apologize for that, actually. I am 2 times been recognized by the district as Teacher of the Year. And I had no intention of speaking tonight, none. But when I walked into this building and I saw all my colleagues here, I was inspired. And I knew that I could not face my students tomorrow and my staff tomorrow and the people in my building that I count on every day if I did not speak here tonight. So please, know what I'm saying is from the heart. And know what I say is for the kids in this community that I love more than anything. I've never wanted to leave Hamtramck High School, and I don't ever want to leave Hamtramck High School. These kids deserve the best. But I, for the first time in my life, have seriously considered updating my resume. And I know I speak for several other members at the high school staff. Everybody in that building is fighting. Our principals, our admins, but we are drowning. It is September. September is a time when teachers are rejuvenated, they're ready. We had 15 staff members call off on Monday. 15! I had to sub Monday and Tuesday on my prep. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. We've been begging. I went through the proper chains of command. I spoke to my building principal about getting staff in the building. I went through all the proper chains of command. I met with HR in early March of 2022, begging to get a principal. We had one principal to start the school year with. We were short teachers all of last year.
There was absolutely no reason why interviews were not conducted, why we did not get people there. We need help from you. We need you to hear us. We went 6 teachers last year. We had 15 teachers out. There are students that are going to classrooms with no teacher there. That is hurting our community. It's bringing down the culture and climate of our building, and it's just simply unacceptable. We are still down staff. We are still down staff. I'm begging you. I don't know the math, and I haven't looked it up, but I'm quite sure we pay almost $250,000 a year for HR. $250,000 a year. And they can't even conduct interviews. There was a student who grew up in Hamtramck. She was one of our best and brightest. She graduated from Hamtramck. She went and student taught at Hamtramck last year. We were begging HR, hire this girl, she's amazing, she's amazing, she's amazing. The whole summer went by, no call. August went by, no call. We still begged. September went by. They finally gave her an interview. Guess what? There was a no-show. Guess what? There was a no-show. Thank you. There was a no-show. The person no-showed for the interview. Then, the next day, she finally had an interview and was hired. Just give me 20 more seconds here.
I actually have given you 30 seconds.
Okay, let me finish. Please, I'll be brief. I understand I'm going over.
Okay.
But I just want you to understand that we need help. And if you don't give us help and you don't listen to what our voices are saying, and we're going to lose more staff. You thought what happened at Dickinson East was bad last year? Just wait. And it's not a threat. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Please, listen to your teachers. Listen to your principals. Listen to us.
All right, next up we have Abraham Rosen. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. So today we had Mr. Awad. Is he still here? I would like him back in the room.
Please don't address the instructor.
Don't address it. Okay, I will not. So the special ed director, I've heard his plan 3 or 4 times, and it's easy. There's no plan. He keeps going back to the same thing. My daughter's 4 years old, and I am not taking her out of the district. I'm requesting her to stay in the district. She has Down syndrome, and you guys are going to provide her with the services. And I just hired a new advocate. She was up here, Sarma Lukman, because you guys reached out to her about my daughter. So we're not going anywhere. I'm going to keep her here. And she's not the only kid with Down syndrome in the district that is not getting any services. She hasn't had physical therapy, occupational therapy, food therapy, or speech. Everywhere I take her, they say, what has your district done? And what have you guys done? I just got her into preschool, and the principal called us thinking we were a different family. And when I took her there, she was ecstatic. And then the special education was refusing to let her go. And now he's going after the principal, saying that my daughter's there for a half a day. Yes, my daughter's there for a half a day because the reason why is she doesn't have no physical therapy, no occupational therapy. She does not eat. Of course she can't stay there a whole day. Her sugar would drop. So I am going to keep her, bringing her for a half a day. And I want to know, I want to see a plan. My child's not the only one. There's other parents. I was told that about 150 parents meet every so often with the head of special education. I was never told that. How many times I've met with him, he's never disclosed that to me. I came here with another gentleman. He's the one that told me about those meetings. And we sat down, me and him, with Mr. Nabil, Nagy, the superintendent, and the head of HR. And they were not aware of it. So somebody's not doing their job. And it's the head of special education. And I've told him before, he's incompetent, he can't do his job. And that's just my opinion as a parent, and I'm gonna keep coming back every time.
Yep.
last but not least, we have Lukman Saleh. No, Lukman.
There's one back here too. I might be right underneath Rosemary Yankee.
You already left.
Amanda, let's go.
Somebody wants to turn a foreman, if you don't mind.
Amanda, let's go.
I think you know your daughter come.
Oh, yeah, yep, come on up.
He's gone.
Hi,
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. I don't even need a whole 3. My name is Amanda Lesko, 2nd grade at ECE. I'm 7 years and counting. Sorry, I've been dealing with some issues with my voice lately. I just want to talk a little bit about the MTSS process and how it takes too long to get our students evaluated. Kindergarten starts it off most times because they see deficit with their children. And then 1st grade gets the chance to restart the process over. And then when they get to me in 2nd grade, I get to restart the process over because the paperwork and data isn't enough, or we have to repeatedly do this process because the evaluations are not happening. If the process gets started in 1 grade, the student should be eligible for evaluation before they get to the next grade. We're seeing deficit in September. We're not filling out this paperwork willy-nilly because it's a lot of work. In my class, I have 1 student with an active IEP. I have 3 students who have had MTSS last year. 2 of them in October of 21 was started. 1 was in January of 22. None of them have been evaluated. I have started 5 additional MTSS process documentations of data due to students performing in my class at pre-K level. Again, I teach 2nd grade. The new Fontes and Pinnell reading test, after doing DRA and then nothing last year, is already showing that 9 of my 18 students are at pre-K for reading. iReady has shown me that kindergarten level for 9 of my students in reading, and I have 10 kids who are at kindergarten level for math. Why do we keep changing our curriculum? In the 7 years that I've been here, the reading program has gone from Jan Richardson to DRA to Lucy Calkins to Mesa units, back to Lucy Calkins. Now we have Fontes and Pinnell, and we've added Foundations for Phonics, which I'm going to plug because that's the one program that's actually working in our district. If we do not have consistency, we're not going to get quality results. Everyday math has been our curriculum since I got here 7 years ago. Do we have results? Sure. Is it the greatest? No, because in 2nd grade, my kids cannot add and subtract 1-digit numbers. There's a spiral that happens in everyday math, and there's never anything taught to mastery. In my professional opinion, if we expect results that show growth, which we need here, we need a curriculum that does not change every year or 2, especially when it takes these beautiful teachers more than a year to learn it, to be able to teach it. Have a good evening.
All right, last but not least, Akram.
Hello, everybody. My name is Akram Starkic. I'm a Spanish teacher at Hamtramck High School. I've been with the district since, as my letter stated, 1998. I graduated from Hamtramck High School in 1996. We had tough times before, don't get me wrong, challenging times. 2004, for example. But situation like this, where I have to sit down and talk to my coworkers and persuade them not to quit, not to leave the school district. Why? They're tired, they're overworked, and we are all understaffed. Every single school I heard is looking for qualified candidates. Guess what? We nominated them. We submitted our friends for consideration. consider our co-workers, okay? I submitted my child, if he's good for my child, it's definitely good for your child. Submitted his name over here for an interview. Fine, give him a chance. To this day, he wasn't called. He works at Troy Public School. That was one instance. Another instance with Ms. Patel. We begged HR to hire her. Begged, called, emailed. We have a wonderful candidate. She's awesome. She was my student. I take pride in what I do. Another one of my students, successful social studies teacher. We had that position. We knew Mr. Erickson was leaving in October. I had a meeting in March requesting somebody because kids were sitting inside with the sub who was twiddling their fingers and playing with the cell phone the entire time. There was no learning going on. And guess what? There is no learning going on right now. We have, yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a situation where we had 15 people out. Some of them were justifiable, field trips. Some people are attending conferences. Some of those absences, but people are tired. That's why they're taking a day off. They're taking mental health breaks to the point where they don't walk into the classroom and start hurting kids with their actions or what they say to them. We need help. There were 18 candidates for the social studies position. When in my conversation with the interim major director, he said there was one person who I called. His boss told me that he has to call him. That person was working at Meyer, and that was a red flag. That's why he qualified candidate was not hired. I worked as a locksmith. I worked as barista. I was making coffee for a living going through college. So if that's a red line why we didn't hire somebody qualified, instead, who did we hire? Person who cannot pass NTPC second time in a row, unqualified. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any additional board discussion at this time?
Can we comment on all what's happened tonight?
Don't
respond directly. Yes, no, I'm not responding.
Sure.
Just gonna ask the chief of command where all this going, since the board doesn't know about these things that has been happening. I'm surprised to hear all these comments today, and screaming and crying, and nobody's been helping, and nobody's reporting to us to notify us what's going on. I really need an answer from who is in charge of this. Thank you.
I think on the same topic. I haven't fully worked out my thoughts on this, but for starters, I know that approximately a year ago, we, by consensus of the board, requested and were assured there would be the thoughtful formation of not just a hiring committee composed of the people who are most affected by the decisions of that process, but also a district-wide culture and climate committee to address, to make a comprehensive and thoughtful plan at a district-wide level because of the, too many to list difficulties that have led to a challenging culture over a year ago, and we are here recycling that same process without any action, and I am incredibly frustrated by that. And I intend to make a resolution to that effect at the conclusion of this discussion. I also think that we need to explore as a board the possibility of, if it's possible, by the next COW meeting, to invite the most senior level person possible from Wayne Risa to help us understand what the maximum level of partnership could possibly be. Because not only is it clear that we don't have the capacity, but we do not have the knowledge of history, of best practices, of leadership needed in some very critical areas that come with experience, that come with time, that come with a lot of things. But it's clear to me that to watch what has transpired over the last year, that we should not be afraid and not be slighted, consider ourselves slighted to ask for the most help possible, and to go outside of our district to find the most experienced and professional possible help to help us fill our gaps. Because it is clear that the answers that have been constructed thus far are wholly inadequate. My third discussion point is if I could ask the board to agree to have the VLI program be put on the COW agenda, and a full presentation by...
I've already requested that.
Thank you.
I've requested that already.
Thank you.
Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, and can we maybe to the other 2 points, how do you all feel? About inviting Risa to join us for the COW to understand what the maximum level of support could be across all, not just special ed, which is obviously I think it's not obvious, but our most critical area right now. But I think we are in need of support in multiple fields and departments, and then if you all are inclined or supportive, I'd like to offer a resolution to formally require the establishment of the hiring and culture and climate committees by a certain date.
I just want to add to that. We have requested, updates on a lot of these concerns that have been brought forward multiple times, and we've never received any kind of response or our questions answered. So yeah, I agree we should do that, and I have no problem with it. Do you guys?
Not only hiring, even exiting. We need to know why people is leaving, if we can keep them or not. I've been saying that for 3 years. I don't have no exit evaluation done and send it to us.
That's right.
I got something to say. Thank you guys so much for all your hard work and dedication. I know I had some of you guys as teachers. Don't give up on us. I hear you. Don't give up on us.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Anybody else before I make a motion? Are you guys okay with the formal establishment of a resolution to establish a date by which these committees need to be established, and then if not, they would be in breach of board directive? It's been a year.
I understand, yeah, it's been a year, but can we put it on the COW meeting so we can get some advice?
What advice? I mean, this one I'm a little impatient about just because I remember making the request a year ago, and if we're gonna listen to people, let's start tonight.
What are we doing about What's happening with ECE? You heard from a lot of people.
The COW meeting is the COW meeting is the 26th. It's 2 weeks from today. I don't see any reason why there couldn't be. I mean, this should exist already. So if there hasn't been any work done to this effect at this point, I would be, flabbergasted. But I don't think it's inconceivable to ask that in 2 weeks process for developing the committee and a set schedule and with a deadline for when formulation will happen and a set schedule of meeting times could be developed. I know, Mr. Nagy, does that seem unreasonable?
No.
Okay.
And there are, in regards to ECE, we're gonna be sharing updates with the staff tomorrow. We've been working with RESA for about 3 days now.
3 days.
Yeah. And there's some items in there that we need to discuss with personnel before we share out the plan. And go from there.
Great.
They've been intensely supportive.
Great, thank you. I would still love for them to be able to come communicate with us directly, not just
I don't think
about-
they would mind either,
Okay.
even for the cow.
Great. So, I guess, with that, is there any other discussion? I mean, with that said, I'd like to make a motion that the board request the superintendent develop a membership and meeting schedule with clear goals for hiring committee, culture and climate committee by the October 26th COW meeting.
So membership and, sorry.
In membership, meeting schedule, and clear goals.
Thank you.
Okay. Joanne, do you have the language so I can?
I have resolution to, and I don't know if I got this right, to formally establish a membership and meeting schedule of clear goals for hiring committee and a culture and climate committee by the October COW.
It's basic, yeah. Membership, meeting schedule, and clear goals for the
For hiring
second.
committee and a culture and climate committee.
Correct.
Can I use yours to read it?
I'm sorry?
Can I use your language to read it?
You're not gonna be able to read
Make it a
it.
resolution?
You're not gonna be able to read it.
All right. So that would be resolution number 10. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Watson
Stealing my motion.
and seconded by Mr. Major.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead, resolves that I
The
have.
board does formally establish a membership and meeting schedule with clear goals for a hiring committee and a culture and climate committee by the October COW meeting.
All right.
Yeah,
Does that
October
sound good?
26th.
October 26th. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Resolution number 10, or 11, meeting adjournment. Do I have a motion? Motion. Motion by Obaid, seconded by Hall. Resolved that the regular board meeting be adjourned at 9:13 p.m. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
This is